When we think about Warhammer 40K and the art that accompanies the term grim dark, there's usually one name that comes to the top: John Blanche. John Blanche created many iconic pieces of art over the years for Warhammer 40,000, and specifically at one point, he collaborated with the army painter to make John Blanche's Zornian palette, Volume 1 and Volume 2. I have reviewed those. You'll find them right up here. Boom. And of course, you couldn't stop there because it turns out they made a sequel. Let's dive into that.
Here at Tattoo Tabletop, we have a lot of fun, so be sure to like, share, subscribe. It's all completely free and it helps me out. And if you really want to help me out, come join our Patreon. Link is in the description where you can come post and talk about your favorite minis. Now back to the video.
So Army Painter has once again collaborated with John Blanche, and I'm very excited. As you saw at the beginning, they've made volumes 3 and volumes 4. Now, one thing that distinguishes these two apart is one is a cool palette with more blues and turquoises and lighter colors, and then this one has more vibrant colors. They're both very vibrant, but warm colors, cold colors, and together they make another two sets. I am very excited. A massive shout out to the army painter who sent these over to me. Tim, you're an absolute legend. I appreciate you. But I got to try these out. I'm very excited about these colors because, as opposed to their previous counterparts, they are a lot more vibrant. They're brighter. They have a lot more going on for them. And for that reason alone, I am super excited. So let's go ahead and let's talk about them.
Okay, so first things first, let's start with the cold palette, and we are just going to take the individual paints and we're just gonna drop them onto the wet palette. So obviously I sped this out to save a little bit of time, but you're gonna get a nice spread on what these colors look like when they come out of the bottle. As you can see, I also just put a little drop of it on the top of each one of the bottles just because that's an easier reference for me to see what it looks like out of the bottle. I mean, the bottles are pretty clear, but I just like to do it as a little extra coverage. So again, just making my way through the cold palette. I won't put the washes on the wet palette. I will, that's for a different time. I'll have to try those a little bit later. But I did want to get the acrylics out, and I did want to show you how they spread. So we got Sky Shard here, just going right onto the wet palette. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take the brush and we're just going to show you a little bit of the creamy and the consistency of the paint. So as you can kind of tell, I'm really bad at doing the scribbly thing that, all the really cool YouTube painters do, but I did my best. As you can see, each one of these is coming out very nice, very creamy, very consistent, and you can tell that it has the ability to be very opaque as well as the ability to be very thinned, to be brought down to a glaze. And that's one thing I've always appreciated about the Army Painter Fanatic line is it's very flexible. So now we're going to move on to the warmer palette. Start with Ember Veil, make our way across now that we've done that. And of course, this is the brighter palette. So you're going to have a lot brighter colors, warmer colors, like this almost neon yellow, which was absolutely fantastic. I was very pleasantly surprised with that, as well as the Bloodthorn. I mean, this palette actually shocked me a little bit, if I'm being honest, because usually I am not a warm palette kind of person. I usually prefer a cold palette. But when I started emptying out some of these paints and started to see them on the wet palette, it really started to sell me on what it was trying to do. And especially Glade Shard, oof. Let me tell you what, if I was painting wood elves or something, my Glade Shard would be empty in a heartbeat. But again, same thing. If you've tried the Warpaints Fanatic, you know the kind of creamy inconsistency that I'm talking about, as well as that ability to bring it down and reduce it into a glaze to really help build up those layers in a very nice way. Or if you're just trying to get something done, the opaqueness is really going to come through. It's going to show up for you, and it absolutely does. So now I'm just going to take a look at the shades here. So this is Pine Hollow shade and Nightroot shade. Both of these look absolutely incredible, and I'm stoked to use those. And those are from the cold palette, so from volume 3. And then you have Grove Hollow Shade and Vine Root Shade, and these are from the warmer ones. I like the redness in the Vine Root Shade, so I'll definitely have to experiment with that a little bit. But now we're just going to take this Space Marine that I kit bashed a long time ago from some spare bits, and I'm just going to show you how the paint performs. So we're going to start with that Shadow Thorn, and we're just going to apply it over the shoulder. As you can see, nice creamy consistency. It flows very smoothly. It had thinned out a little bit extra just between shooting, the previous footage before and now, but you can still see there is a very nice opaque nature to it. So even with the black primer, it covers very nicely. So if I wanted to apply it a little bit thicker, I would absolutely be able to. And I immediately jumped to the Glade Shard to see how that covered, and I was very impressed with how easily it covered even over a black, especially over a black primer. One of the other colors I wanted to try, I just wanted to try the Bloodthorn. Again, no real scheme here, not painting up the entire Marine. I just really wanted to see the finish on all these. I did the Dew Path on the other shoulder. Again, you can see very opaque, very strong coverage. So I absolutely loved both of these. We'll get on to my final thoughts here, but I just want to give you one last look at all the bottles. They're very roughly organized, but you have that cold palette in the back, the warm palette up front, and again, another fantastic contribution to the Army Painter John Blanche sets.
So there's kind of a preview of what they look like. A couple of them used in promo, obviously. There's very specific combinations you can use for them. Interestingly enough, they do not have the scale, the vibrancy scale in which they operate. Usually with the Army Painter Fanatics, you had a sort of scale on the bottle that informed you where it was meant to be, its position in the hierarchy of vibrancy there in terms of brighter or darker. These ones are just kind of more independent, and I'm completely fine with it because a lot of them fulfill some colors that I have been looking for myself. Specifically, Dew Path has a very Sons of Horus vibe, which I am very on board with because, as many know who follow my Instagram, I've been working on my Sons of Horus. I have a very nice recipe for it, but it's nice to have another color in the mix as well that kind of has that more seafoam green sort of finish to it. And I absolutely adore Shadow Thorn and Frostvale. These are two very bright. I love a good cold palette. Cold palette's probably the palette I work with the most just because that's my particular style. That's the one I particularly enjoy. But I've always loved vibrancy, and it's something that's always come out in my painting. And I think these two sets absolutely complement them. And of course, if you're looking for these, I'll put a link to the Army Painter orders down in the description. You can absolutely pick them up there, or of course, order them from your friendly local game store. There's plenty to go around, and I am very excited to see these enter, especially because they have 4 new washes accompanied with them. Washes, a secret, a sleeper, if there ever was one. I know most people think, oh, washes are like, yeah, you always use them. But some people always forget you can just use them themselves. They're strong enough to tint brighter zenithal highlights and create some really cool colors. So I'm very excited to see those, especially because one of them is more of a turquoise-y finish, and I love that. But if I had to give another shout out, I gotta give it to Glade Shard. Glade Shard is a sleeper hit in my opinion, and it's a reason. In my opinion, it's a reason to pick up this palette alone is for this green, specifically because it has a vibrancy to it. When you look at some of the comparisons, and I'll post a little video here, some of the closest colors you're looking at are like leafy green in the Fanatic set, but there's sort of a pastelness to leafy green. It doesn't quite hit that same vibrancy that Glade Shard does. Glade Shard just really it just gives that nice pop, that aggressive vibrant. And when I'm painting green specifically, especially as if I'm building up layers of it and I'm getting to higher highlights on it, I want something that hits that same green vibrancy without going pastel on me. And this one just home run, absolute win in my book. Of course, you have like the Moon Petal, you have Iceborne. Iceborne, I feel like it's going to be a really good zenithal because it has a paleness to it, a white to it that will be able to take speed paints over it nicely while still giving that sort of pinkish undercoat for it. Bloodthorn does add a really nice vibrant red to it, but with a subtle hint of a softer pink, but it's very fantastic. Again, all great colors. Hearthborn, I'm actually very excited about because I've been really enjoying painting skin, and at some point, I would like to work with somebody who's very good at painting skin. Hopefully, teaches me a little bit more on how to use them and how to do it very, very well. But I'm always excited for new skin colors. So, of course, let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. Again, massive shout out to the Army Painter. You guys are absolutely incredible. I am absolutely incorporating these into my regular set. I'm extremely excited for them. You know, the Army Painters always has been continuing to come up with new colors, new combinations, and I cannot wait to see what they come up with next. I mean, until next time, I suppose when you pick these up, you're just gonna have to go paint something.